Is saying things like, "Oh God," "Oh Lord," and "Geez" bad? I don't know who asks these questions. They don't know how to put their name on there. A couple of you are smart enough or crazy enough to do that. Okay? But it's a pretty good question, isn't it? Here's the first point that I would make mention of is this. Folks, God is deeply concerned about our conversation, about our speech, and about the words that we use in speaking to others. And the Bible talks about it a lot. Ephesians 4:29, "Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth." One chapter later in Ephesians 5:3 and 4, "But fornication and uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becometh saints. Neither filthiness," now watch this, "nor foolish talking or jesting, which is not convenient, but rather giving of thanks." We turn to Colossians 3, verse 8, and Paul says this, "Now put off all these, anger, wrath, malice, filthy communication out of your mouth." 2 times in the Old Testament. Exodus chapter 20, verse 7, Deuteronomy 5, verse 11, exact same statement is made. "Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. For the Lord will not hold him guiltless, which taketh his name in vain." Did you listen to some of the adjectives and modifiers that were spoken of in that verse, folks? Corrupt communication, foolish talking, filthy communication, taking God's name in vain. The Apostle Paul, the writers of the Old and New Testaments exhort us, clean up your speech. Don't let it be filthy and nasty and dirty talking. God's concerned about the words we use. Now there are words in our society that are referred to as euphemisms. Now you don't hear that word said very often, do you? That almost sounds like a bad word itself. Stop that euphemism. And folks, a euphemism is nothing more than this, a substitute for a filthy word. That's all that it is. Rather than saying the actual curse word, you say something in place of it. And there's a ton of them. Just go to the internet and pull up euphemisms. You'll be surprised at some of those things. Here's just a couple. Geez, that really stands for Jesus. Individuals say Lord, L-A-W-D, stands for Lord. Well, Lord. How about this one? Lordy. Oh, so that's just putting a Y on Lord, is it not? And how about this one? Golly for God. There's a whole lot more that you could talk about. But here's what I want us to understand. Folks, Christians need to be holy in their conversation. You and I need to be very careful about the selection of words that we use one with another. God's concerned about it. He doesn't want filthy communication. He doesn't want corrupt communication. He doesn't want foolish communication. He doesn't want His name used in vain. I've got a responsibility as to how I use my mouth. And here's something we need to understand. As Christians, we do not need to try to ride the line between right and wrong. Folks, the reality of the matter is this. There are plenty of godly, wholesome, Christian, good, positive, righteous words that you and I can choose from in order to state whatever needs to be said, even, watch that, in emotional conversations. You see, it's usually when we get mad, we get angry, a lot of times we'll use some pretty bad words, won't we? Whether it's at home, on the job, wherever it is. Folks, God doesn't want us talking like that. There's thousands upon thousands of good words. And if you'll pick them and choose them right, you can make just as much of a point with good words as you can with dirty words. Can't you? Every one of us needs to keep in mind Matthew chapter 12, 36 and 37. Listen to what Jesus says. "But I say unto you, that every idle word that men shall speak, they shall give an account thereof in the day of judgment. For by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. Folks, that verse tells me that God is listening to what I say. And when I go before Him in judgment, it's not just my behaviors. It's not just my thoughts. Remember, the thought of foolishness is sin. Even the words that I speak, I will have to give an account thereof. We need to remember that, don't we?